NFL free agency is a little bit like March Madness. There's just a ton going on, but luckily you're here with me, Bria Maranthus, and Mike Fisher at Dallas Cowboys headquarters at the Star, and we'll keep you up to date on everything. I have to talk first about wide receiver Michael Gallup. Do you think his contract extension was the most team-friendly move you've seen in a while?
Yeah, and when we talk about the everything, there's a lot of everything to talk about, and might as well start with him almost in a chronological sort of way.
Right.
The reported numbers, it's not going to be as big as that. There's some fluff in there. There's some incentive type stuff worth millions of dollars that's tacked on to the end of the contract. It involves going to the Super Bowl and that kind of stuff. It'd be nice, but it makes the number more inflated than it is. This will all work just fine if there's an understanding that these predictions that Michael Gallup is going to be back at the start of training camp, extremely optimistic and medically not very realistic. That is usually an 8 to 12 month recovery time after that surgery. Now, he's an athlete and he's got all the best facilities and all the rest. So even if you make it 8 months, that still doesn't put him ready in July. Hopefully he's ready in September.
So is this the season of CeeDee Lamb? I mean, you look at his first 2 seasons with the Cowboys, he's definitely had some explosive games, some explosive moments, and moments where it's like, okay, he's Dak Prescott's guy. Now you don't have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, not sure when he's going to be fully healthy. Is it CeeDee Lamb's time to shine?
I think there's a bad taste in the critics' mouth because the last time we saw CeeDee Lamb was in the 49er playoff game,
right,
and he was invisible.
Right.
But the easy question is, can he be the number one guy? And the easy answer is, he better be, because they made the Amari Cooper move in part because they believe in CeeDee Lamb. They drafted him in the first round in part because they believed in it. He was ranked somewhere between 3 and 6 on their board that year. And so if you think he was the 3rd best player in the draft, he better be able to be your best wide receiver. And I don't think, except for some problems with the drops once in a while, a little inconsistency, and then maybe one more thing. He probably needs to develop more ability as a possession guy, not just to take the top off guy. But, can you go over the middle? Can you catch 5-yard passes? Can you catch slants? All that kind of stuff. And there's no reason physically or intellectually that CeeDee Lamb can't do all of that.
So far, do you feel like the Cowboys have chosen to retain the right players? I know that's a tough question to ask.
Well, their philosophy here, of course, is let's draft our own, develop our own, and then if they're great, we pay our own. And they've made some mistakes in judgment on the great versus good. Michael Gallup might be one of those mistakes.
Yeah.
On the negative side for them, I'm keeping him, maybe. Amari Cooper may end up being a mistake in saying goodbye to him. The Tank Lawrence thing is going to work out fine, so that works. That's keeping your own, and they worked with him to make it very budget friendly after their initial offer was a kick in the crotch to him. But that's negotiation. Sorry, I mean that's the way that's negotiation. In the end, both sides won. The Randy Gregory thing is a football disaster. All of this can be rehabilitated though, depending on what you do next.
Right.
The Randy Gregory situation, which is it's happened before, but not very often.
What a U-turn.
Well, it was the job of Stephen Jones and his lieutenants to get Randy signed. It was job one. You only had one job, as the saying goes. They all said it was a priority, and so the fact that it didn't get done, no matter what happened, means that they failed.
Yes,
that Stephen Jones, absolutely. At the same time, Randy Gregory and his side overreacted and misreacted to the language in the contract. There is nothing unusual about that language, and I have the evidence in my pocket. I have Randy Gregory's first contract that he signed here, and it's got the same language.
Oh, interesting.
So for whatever reason, the Randy Gregory camp decided to freak out about it, and away he goes to Denver. That's okay. The disaster can be fixed. Kind of like a pothole in the street is a disaster, well, unless you put some tar in it. So now you got $14 million. Go spend it on a $14 million pass rusher.
Right.
Go get $14 million of defensive help. As we sit here now, we can talk about Von Miller.
I was just going to bring up that name. How would Von Miller fit here in Dallas? Do you think he would? Is this realistic, or is this just nah?
It's realistic enough that they are evaluating the idea inside this building as we speak. Now, I've got people that are saying that that's going to be a $15 million player. That's not the Cowboys' usual way to go buy somebody else's $15 million player. But they just carved out 14.
Right.
So they just got
Close.
the exact amount of room to be able to do something like that. Von Miller is, of course, from DeSoto around here. I think he's got a property right over there, in addition to an incredible mansion in Denver, and I'm sure he's got an incredible mansion in Los Angeles. I think it's absolutely worth their exploration. I would say the odds are that he goes back to the Rams. If you're, get to be 30 plus years old, you're trying to win Super Bowls as much as anything else.
Yeah.
And with all due respect to the Cowboys, the Rams in the last 4 years have established that they can go to the Super Bowl twice in 4 years.
Right.
Cowboys haven't done anything like that in 26 years. So Von Miller to the Rams is probably the best prediction, but good for the Cowboys for looking into it. Bobby Wagner is another thing. They have touched base with Bobby Wagner. We've been told that that's exploratory. Now, I've also been told, because he made $18 million a year on his contract in his last deal. One of the reasons that Seattle had to say goodbye to him. The Cowboys aren't going anywhere near, like a fraction of that.
Right.
And he may end up laughing at whatever offer they make. But
Hanging up the phone real quick.
yeah, but whatever problems that you caused yourself or were thrust upon you, you can fix them now by using that same money and spending it wisely and well.
And you mentioned Demarcus Lawrence. I know you had an exclusive conversation with him, and he's super excited to be a Cowboy for life. He posted about it on his social media, but he also mentioned with you something about a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Cowboy fans might, on the one hand, like the enthusiasm, because Tank always talks this way. On the other hand, Cowboy fans might react by saying, why don't you guys quit talking about it and get closer to doing it? But I appreciated Tank Lawrence spending a little time with us. He also did, after our deal, he went on the podcast with Patrick Peterson, the NFL player, and talked about how the Cowboys' first offer to him was 1 year, $10 million.
Wow.
It was basically, we want to cut you in half. He's a $20 million a year guy.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable if you think about them trying to put the puzzle pieces together, if you look at it from the Cowboys side. But if you're Tank Lawrence, you probably feel a little bit insulted.
For sure.
Luckily for the Cowboys and Tank, he wasn't so insulted that he took his ball and went home. Instead, 2 weeks later, they sat down again and hammered something out now that is both team friendly and Tank friendly.
Absolutely. Okay, speaking of free agents, Odell Beckham Jr., he's a free agent. He's a Super Bowl winner. He was a big part of that Super Bowl win until he severed that torn ACL. A lot of reports saying maybe he'll return to LA, but is there a fit for him here in Dallas?
The Rams want him back, and he talks about wanting to be back, and then he's he's trying to recruit Von Miller back to the Rams, even though he's not even with the Rams. So Sean McVay said he's developed a very special relationship with Odell Beckham, and good for him, because in Beckham's career, obviously, he's had some conflicts in those areas.
Yeah.
He probably matured just at the right time. Getting a chance to win a Super Bowl will do that to a guy. He does have, and this goes way back, his family is from this region, and he's got relatives in the Texas area and the Louisiana area who secretly have always whispered, I wish Odell could come here.
We're the star, we're the star.
And by the way, he's one of a trillion people in the world that think the same thing. But I would say that Odell Beckham, why he might be a talent fit in Dallas, found a really nice home with the Rams.
Okay, so you're here at the Star more than anyone. Are you hearing any whispers as free agency begins and, well, the NFL draft is right around the corner as well?
Well, let's do the NFL draft and the offensive line as it relates to Lyle Collins. The Cowboys, of course, said goodbye to Connor Williams. We knew they would. He signed a 2-year deal with the Dolphins, $14 million a year, and you knew that was coming. What exactly Lyle Collins did wrong in the last month that would have him being so soured on by the organization that they are literally willing to cut him and eat money to do it? We've chronicled over the course of the last couple of years. He's got some issues. Lyle Collins does. He's got some maturity issues. As one coach told me, I wish he'd take his job more seriously. There is a possibility that a team like the Patriots says, well, don't cut him, because then we're getting in competition to grab him. We'll give you a little nothing for him. Same way as the Amari Cooper thing happened. But if the Cowboys do a trade before June 1st, they still, if I understand it right, they still have $14 million of dead money coming at them. That's a lot of dead money to not like a guy. And the Cowboys, in post-haste here, very quickly, have decided we don't like Lyle Collins anymore.